recording. All right, guys, welcome to the team chat. We are going to be talking about income producing hours, time wasters, and time teasers today. This isn't going to be a super long and in-depth webinar just because the income producing hours are super simple. They're nothing complex, and there are things that just, I don't know, we'll just dive in and see where we go. But I want to just start off right off the bat saying this business isn't complicated. I'm just muting you all. I can't help it. There we go. Okay. So business isn't complicated. However, it's not easy either. It's one of those things that it doesn't take some crazy, intricate, detailed plan to have success. It just takes being focused, owning your time, and committing to doing the income producing activities in this business in order to have success. Now, this concept in general came to me whenever I started reading this book called Rock Your Network Marketing Business with Sarah Robbins. I always struggled for a long time. I struggle with time management. It's something I'm not good at, but I've also been a huge time tracker. I track my time. Like every single minute of the business goes into these little notebooks. I think I have like 7 of these notebooks filled with like every day. And I track my time so I can see what I'm doing and see where I'm spending my time, because there's a lot of times that I do the time waster and time teaser type activities. However, when I read this book, on the next slide, I'll tell you that she makes sure that her coaches, no matter where they are in their business, are focused on the income producing activities. So always remember this saying, write it down somewhere, have it on a sticky note. I need to do this again because there's definitely times in my business where whenever I think about this saying at the bottom of this slide, I have more success. So think to yourself, is what I'm doing right now going to get me closer to my ultimate goal of blank? Insert your goal. If yes, keep doing that activity. If no, change what you're doing. That's super, super, super important. Is what I'm doing right now, this very minute, going to get me closer to my goal? If yes, keep going. If no, change what you're doing and do something that will get you closer to your goal. Having that in your head and just repeating it over and over again, you're going to be staying on task more. You're going to stay focused. You're going to be doing the things that you need to do to move your business forward. And ultimately, your business is going to move forward faster. So what are the income producing activities? These 3 things right here. That's it. These 3 things. Number 1, sharing your business and inviting people to learn more about the business opportunity. That's number 1. Number 2, sharing our programs, our products, and our groups and inviting people to those. That's number 2. Number 3 is following up, signing people up, and getting them started right. That's it. Those 3 things, that is it. Those 3 things are the only things that are going to directly have an impact on your income. That's it. Nothing else. Those 3 things. So the Power of 3 document, that very top section of the document, focuses only on these 3 things. That's all that it focuses on. So utilize that Power of 3 document. Julie, were you raising your hand because you wanted to say something? Okay, I just wanted to check. So just make sure that you're utilizing that Power of 3 document. If you don't like that document and you have a better way to track these 3 things and these 3 things only, then utilize that. But make sure that you are focused on sharing your business, sharing our programs and products, and inviting people to join our challenge groups, our support groups, our free healthy eating groups, and the business opportunity. And then make sure you're also following up, signing people up, and getting them started. Now, Sarah Robbins, in this book, she says, look at your weekly planner and block out 10 to 15 hours per week. to do only these things. I guarantee you, if you block your calendar to do 10 to 15 hours, if you don't do anything else with your business and you only do these 3 things in your business for 10 to 15 hours, you're going to see success. And if you're not seeing success, then you need to talk to your upline coach and we need to figure out what you're doing wrong. Because these 3 things, when you do them consistently, 10 to 15 hours a week, you're going to have massive success. You just will. So that's my little bit on the income producing activities. Does anybody have any questions on those activities? No? Okay, good. Perfect. Now, we will go on to the time wasters. And these are those things that we all do so much of, and it's so hard this day and age, but Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram scrolling, Googling. Oh my gosh. Whenever I have a thought, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to Google it. I need to know that answer right this minute, obviously. And I'm very curious. And I know that Google will have an answer for me. And then you're like 20 minutes later and you have all this great information, but you're like, that's not really necessary. I didn't need to know that. That's not important. Nor did that help me move my business anywhere right now. So Googling, I don't know about you, but that's my biggest struggle is Googling for sure, because I have I have Facebook, the newsfeed, completely blocked from my computer. So if you haven't done that yet, I would highly suggest blocking the newsfeed from your Facebook. And I Googled how to do that, obviously. And mine is like an application in Google Chrome, because Google Chrome is the browser that I use because I'm a Google freak. And so there's like an application that you can install into your computer. And literally when I pull up Facebook, it says, do not get distracted by the Facebook newsfeed. And that's it. It won't even let me see a home feed. So that's been really helpful. However, I haven't found one for my phone yet. So I still struggle with the scrolling on the phone. And even just, guys, just watching TV by yourself when you're like eating lunch or something, those little 20 minutes here and there when you could be listening to personal development or reading a book or getting on a quick phone call. Those little times, they're huge time wasters in the grand scheme of things. Also, random videos. Oh my goodness, they're so distracting. I get distracted by them all the time when I'm Facebook scrolling and watching those crazy videos. They're such huge time wasters. So whenever you get on social media, and guys, I struggle with this too. Doing this presentation today helped me so much because I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm not going to waste any more time. So I hope you guys feel the same way whenever you're done with this. But whenever you use social media, use it with a purpose. Have a plan when you sign into your account. When you are going to do something, make sure you have a plan and always go back. Is this helping me get to my ultimate goal of blank? If no, change it. If yes, keep doing it. Okay? So those are some of the time wasters. We all struggle with them. The next part is time teasers. And these can be important, but ultimately they are not as important as those income producing activities. So they're creating posts for your Instagram, for your blog, for your website, for, your posts for anything, basically your content. Creating trainings, which I wasted time for an entire year creating training after training after training after training, trying to reinvent the wheel. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. It's not worth your time. It's a total time teaser. It's not as important as those income producing activities. These time teasers here, they aren't really important until you hit like 5-star diamond. That's something that I learned from Arnold Nakaha. He is one of the regional directors for, I think it's 5 to 14 stars he works with. And ultimately, the income producing activities are what you need to be spending at least 80% of your time on. The rest of it can be with these time teasers, but you really need to be focusing on those income producing activities. Also, one of the other things that I like to do, I like things clean. I can't stand it when they're dirty, and yet somehow they're always dirty. So those are time teasers too, but make sure when you're doing your cleaning, if it's something that you have to do because you're like OCD kind of like me, make sure you're doing personal development with it, because then it's a little bit more effective, okay? So those are some of the time teasers, basically the things that are helpful, but they're ultimately not as important as those income producing activities. So let me move this around. Here are some tips so that you can add more income producing activities to your week. Tip number 1 is to plan ahead. On Sunday night, on Thursday night, just pick a random night. Whenever you want to, plan ahead. Schedule your 7 to 15 hours a week to do your income producing hours. Make sure that they're in your calendar. Have them set up. Track your time that you're spending on your income producing hours, but I would also challenge you to just track your business time in general. For me, I wasn't good at setting set business hours, so I literally would instead write my tasks down on one side, and then when I sat down, I would write the time that I started that task, and then when I was done with that task and moved on to something else, I would finish the time. I would just like mark the time. And then at the end of the day, I just add up my hours. And so I would suggest doing that because sometimes it's really nice to just track and see where most of your time is going and where you can cut and where you can add things around. Make your income producing hours your focus and stay on task. So always remembering, is what I'm doing right now going to help me get to my goal? Always remembering that it's going to help you stay focused and stay on task. Another trick that some coaches really like to use is they like to set a timer. They like to go into their income producing hour, they set a timer for 60 minutes. When it's over, they'll either change tasks or they can, get up for a quick water break and then reset it for another 60 minutes. I personally like to just go. I'm not really, like if I have a timer go off in the middle, I lose my flow. So that doesn't work well with me. But for some coaches, they're like, I need a timer. Timers changed my life. That whole deal. So use what works best for you, but make sure that you're tracking, scheduling, and staying on task. And I think I'm almost done here. Once you have your focused time, you might be thinking to yourself, how do I find more people to invite if I'm just inviting? If I'm just inviting, how am I going to find them? I need to create my posts and I need to make sure that I'm around and I need to be doing all these other things so that I can find more people to invite. That's a super dangerous question because you don't need to work on the time teasers during your income producing hours. So here are some things down here that are income producing activities, but they don't waste time. Messaging new people you found on Pinterest, messaging old friends, messaging anybody who has commented or liked on your posts, utilizing your list that you created when you first signed up as a coach, that list of 100 people, following up with people that you have talked to in the past, direct messaging anybody on Instagram. Those are just 3 different social media ways that you can do it without having to do that attraction marketing aspect of it. Eventually you will do the attraction marketing aspect of it, but in the beginning, make sure you're doing the income producing hours. Make sure that these are your primary focus because this is where you're going to get the income, this is where you're going to get that reward, and you're going to be able to help people. Whenever you're doing these income producing activities, you're going to find people that you are going to be able to help, and that's what we're here to do. So once you start doing all this messaging right here, your inbox is going to get bigger and you'll have more people to follow up with. So you put a lot of work in on the front end with messaging more than you're doing the responding, because the responding is definitely a part of your income producing activities, 100%. Like replying to your messages is part of your income producing activities. But in the very beginning, when you're first starting or when you need to restart or re-engage, make sure you're putting out tons and tons and tons of messages. Put messages out to people, and it can be text, it can be calls, it can be emails. It doesn't have to be on Facebook, Pinterest, or Instagram. It can be from your initial list of your warm market. Start with your warm market, and then from there you can ask for referrals of people that they might know who might need help, and you can kind of go into that. But once you start the messaging aspect, your inbox is going to get bigger, it's going to get more full, and you'll have more people to follow up with, and that will fill your income producing time more. So I think, yeah, that's basically what I just said. So I think that's all that I had to say. I'm going to unmute everybody, and I want to see what questions you have. I want to see what you find to be the most helpful from this webinar so far. Anybody? Was that helpful?
Yes.
All right, let me take, there we go. There's everybody. Perfect. So do you currently focus on income producing hours? Something that you're focusing on? Is it something that you feel like you need to focus more on now that we've gone over this?
I do.
Good. You're all unmuted, except for Clarissa. I can't hear you. I see you talking, but I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that I just get caught up in the creating easily. So this is a good refresher.
And it's totally fun to create, and there's definitely a time to create for sure. And that's why I like the 80-20 rule. When you focus 80% of your time on those income producing activities, it's totally cool to do 20% of the fun stuff. Because I am like a pick monkey. I love pick monkey. I love creating stuff on pick monkey. But I would spend all day on it if I could, and that's not going to move our business forward. So you just always remember that saying, you know?
Do you find like there's any time of day when you're messaging people that I know it doesn't really matter as long as you're getting it, they're going to see it when they see it, but I don't know, like I always wonder, should I be doing certain things at certain times of the day?
I personally work most of my business from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. So I would say no, just because that's when it works for me. And even when I was on night shift, my business hours were from like 11 p.m. till like 4 or 5 a.m. And I mean, I was never awake when normal people were awake, and they would just message me back whenever they did. That's another great point, though, because I don't want you to get sucked into whenever somebody emails you that you have to respond right away. You do not. I check my messages like once a day, maybe twice a day. That's really all that I do with my messages, because otherwise you'll get sucked in. You get so sucked into the time waster of like, oh, I got to reply right away, or you're on your phone all the time and you're missing out on, stuff. Because that's what I found when I first signed up, is that I was so like, oh, I want to respond right away, and I want to be in this, and I want to be in that. And then you just don't have your set time, and you're spending all of your time doing all of these really crazy things, and just spin your wheels.
Yeah, I find like that's one thing I get a bit overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have all these windows open. I have to do something in each of them right now.
Yeah. So that's where I like to really just like make a to-do list and then do one at a time and write out your time that you're doing each, and then cross it off. Because that's easiest for me. Anybody have anything else they wanted to add or comment or question at all?
The only time that I am, I guess you could say, messaging right back is when I think that they are going to sign up with a challenge pack, because I don't want them, or I guess not just challenge pack, but just in general, because I don't want them to lose that excitement. So if I feel like they really are going to sign up, then I try my best to be able to message them back as soon as I can, but obviously that doesn't work out all the time. But that's the only time I would say I'm stuck to a phone or a computer or whatever, because I'm I really want to get this person signed up before they change their mind.
Yeah. And with
I would
that,
say that's the only time.
Kind of easy to name search. If you just pop open your inbox real quick and you see that specific
right.
hasn't responded, then it's no big deal,
Right, exactly.
Great point. I like that point for sure. Does anybody else have any questions or anything?
I do.
Yeah.
How do you maintain relationships if you're not interacting with people on Facebook, if you're ignoring your news feed and what other people are posting?
I guess I don't understand that question 100%.
Well, when I look at my news feed, I see posts by people I have friends, I'm friends with on Facebook. And so to maintain those relationships, I need to comment on something they're posting too, because the relationships that you make create.
Yeah, I guess I kind of understand that, but in that case, that would be completely off of business time. And for me personally, if there's somebody that I want to see what they've got going on, I'll search their name in the newsfeed real quick. and then just like or comment on their stuff. But I can get too sucked into the news feed. But that's definitely, that would be like completely separate time, like off of business time. Because it really does come back to, once you're like coaching and you're utilizing your business through Facebook, you want to make sure you have a definite separation of like Facebook time for friends and Facebook time for business, because it's really easy to get them like crossed, and then it's easy to get sucked into the time teasers and the time boosters whenever you're doing that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do in a way, but I guess what I'm saying is that if I am searching out, let's say old high school friends, we'll just use that as an example, and I've connected with them. If I don't see what they're posting in their, on their timeline, if I don't see it in my news feed, because I'm ignoring my news feed altogether, how do I know what's going on in their life? How do I follow them and find out more about them so that I can rebuild that relationship, because the business is about relationships.
Mm-hmm. You just go directly to their page.
Yeah, I would say that's where tracking comes in. You're tracking who you're talking to, and you just go directly to the person's profile to see what they're doing, instead of getting, like you said, caught up in the newsfeed. You're seeing everything else. Just go right to the person.
You can just go to the search box and just type in their name.
Yeah.
Can I pipe in really quick?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think a good suggestion for that would be, I think what Sam's saying is that's something you can turn on and turn off. So if you have, like, say, set business hours, like I'm going to message, return messages, then you could turn your news feed off. And then when you're done doing that business hours, then you can turn your news feed back on and, connect with people that way. That way you're not completely left out of their lives. You have the option to turn it on or off, but when you're doing messages or that kind of stuff, you can have it off so it's not as much of a distraction. And then you can even go to like your profile and go and search through your friends, and you can just select a single friend and send them a message without having to get caught up in the entire news feed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I don't know. It just seems like if I've connected with a friend and I message her and I say, oh, how are things going? So I have a couple of kids now, blah, blah, blah. And we're talking back and forth. If I'm not following her at all, I don't see any pictures of her kids. I don't see, some of her posts about crap that's going on in her life But
that's where your conversation comes into play. That's 100%, because I think of like everybody that I'm personally talking to and having conversations with now, we might not even be Facebook friends yet, and they might want to already purchase from me. That happens all the time. I don't necessarily know what's going on in their Facebook newsfeed, because that's not as important as my actual conversation is that's going on. So you can learn all of this through her conversation without having to see her newsfeed. The newsfeed isn't as important. And if there are people that you really want to stay in contact with, I would get their phone number and call them up or send them a text or something like that. But I think that that's a really great, I think that you can get what you want out of that conversation. You don't necessarily have to look and see everything that's going on in their life. Does that make sense? I love your point, though, Michelle, about turning off and on the newsfeed. I think that's smart. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
What's been working for Sam,
Right.
So definitely make it your own. These are her suggestions. She's just sharing what's working for her.
Yeah. So definitely do what works best for you. But I know that I'm a super distracted person, and I don't even know how to turn my newsfeed back on. So I will not be doing that.
Yeah, I've done that too. I've done the kill newsfeed thing, and you can just go into your little settings apps to cancel it out. But I find it helpful to not.
It's still on my phone. I still have the newsfeed on my phone, and I do things from that. But I need to get better at that, because that does not help me personally. So I think that this was a really great conversation. I think you guys are on the right track. Keep focusing on your income producing hours. And if you have any questions during the week, throughout the week, about how to do better with your income producing hours, how to track your time better, anything like that, feel free to just post it in the Pumped Up Nation page. And I appreciate you guys getting on the chat. We'll chat again next week. Crystal, huge shout out to Crystal. Can we give like a huge shout out to Crystal for the What is Coaching chat that she did? Amazing slides.
Well,
You did.
next time, hopefully, it'll let me finish.
You did super awesome.
You did awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I want you to record it again though, so that we can have it into our team page.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that right after this call.
Perfect. All right. Awesome. So I will have this up on YouTube probably tomorrow. And if you guys have anything that you want to add, just put it in Pumped Up Nation. We'll talk soon.
Sam.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Nah.